part 1 of my 10 cards, 1 kit featuring the Simon Says Stamp January 2018 card kit. For card 1, I'm taking a punch from my stash, and from the pretty mint dot pattern paper, I punched out some scallop squares, and I'm going to attach those directly to my card base. For this card base, I'm using the Nina Desert Storm cardstock that came in the kit, and I'm using my Tombow Mono adhesive to attach those. Now I'm using some of the stickers from the kit and adding those to the squares. I love that little rainbow sticker. That is so cute. And I fuss with these for a while until I get them where I want them. This is a really simple, quick card, but I think it turned out really cute. For the sentiment, I just popped up one of the little cut-aparts from the pattern paper. For card number 2, I cut a piece of white cardstock using an Avery Ells Wonky Stitch rectangle die, and using my Misty to stamp my sentiment. I chose You're My Favorite. I used VersaFine ink to stamp that. Now I'm adding some of the little hearts, and I'm going to use the Delicata ink that came in the kit to stamp those. Stamp it again to make sure I get a good stamp. Clean those off. And then I'm going to try to heat set the ink because the Delicata ink is a pigment ink, so it can smudge if you don't get it dry. Then I'm going to use a scrap piece of cardstock and stamp up the larger solid heart using the Delicata ink. Clean that off. Then I'm going to heat set that. And then I'm going to cut that out. And try to decide what I'm going to use on the card. Apply some Tombow Mono adhesive. Apply the larger heart. And then I popped up one of the little cut-aparts as a finishing touch to the card. And you can watch me struggle getting the adhesive backing off. So then I'm just going to attach this with some more of the Tombow Mono, and I used the Schoolhouse Red cardstock for my card base. And that's card number 2. For card number 3, I'm taking a strip of the black cardstock. I think it was an inch and half an inch is what it was, and I'm trimming off the extra. Then I'm going to take some score tape, put 2 strips above the black strip and 1 strip below the black strip. And I'm going to trim off the extra. And I'm putting it on a piece of scratch paper, and I take out the glitter dust. Oh. And once again, as I suspected, I eventually made a mess, but I really like the way this card turned out. So I'm putting some of the glitter on there, and I'm pressing it down with a scrap piece of paper, dusting off some of the extra glitter with the paintbrush. I sparkled for a few days after I made this card. So then I'm putting it back in the jar, and I'm doing fine, and then I make a mess. Okay, so for my sentiment, I'm going to put this in my Misty. And for some reason, I think the glitter, the sparkle on this card is making my camera do weird things. So it goes in and out of focus. So you'll just have to bear with that. I don't know how I could prevent that. But anyway, I chose the Love You sentiment for this card, and I'm stamping it up with some VersaFine ink. And right here, I'm attaching a bow that I made from the Put a Bow set from Lawn Fawn. From the die set from Lawn Fawn, Put a Bow on it. And you could use ribbon or whatever you have in your stash if you don't have that die set. And I think some other companies make dies for that as well. But here I'm adding some sequins from my stash with some multi-medium matte and just applying some Tombow mono adhesive, and I get way too much on there. I don't know what it is about this, but it either comes out in globs or it doesn't come out at all. So I'm not sure if it's just my bottle is messed up or what. But anyway, there's card 3. Card number 4. I'm taking 2 of my favorite pattern papers from the kit. And the floral I cut with a CC Designs tiny scallop die. And I'm attaching it to the gingham check paper and applying adhesive. And I'm going to put that on my mint card base. And trim off the extra. But anything that I use in this video that is not in the kit, I will link below if I can find a link for it. Some of the stuff I have I've had forever. So anyway, for my sentiment, I took one of the cut aparts from the pattern paper and I popped that up on foam tape. Applied some enamel dots from my stash and some Wink of Stella to give it a little shimmer. And that is, apply some more. And that's card number 4. For card number 5, I had fun and made a mess. I'm using a laminated piece of copy paper for my work surface to protect my work surface. And here I attached a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock with some micropore tape to hold it down. And I'm stamping up the stitched heart stamp with some Versamark ink. I'm just doing a random pattern all over. And then I'm going to apply some white embossing powder. And of course I'll make a mess with this too. But I take a paintbrush and get off any of the extra. Clean up my mess. And then I heat set this with my new heat tool, which I love. It's the Wagner Precision Heat Tool, and it works so much better than the old heat tool I had. So I'm going to heat up that. And now here comes the fun part. I'm going to take some Seedless Preserves Distress ink, spritz it with a little bit of water. I just used a spray bottle that I got at the Dollar Tree, but there's one specifically for this, but you can use whatever spray bottle you have. And I'm just taking my embossed design and smushing it around in the ink. Okay, cleaning that off with a baby wipe. Then I'm going to add some Mermaid Lagoon, I think it was, and do the same thing with it. And I think in between the colors, I heat set it for a little bit. I wasn't paying attention. So now I'm going to dry that a little bit. Clean up my mess. And then I'm using a stitched rectangle die from Lawn Fawn, I think, from the small stitched rectangle dies. Cut that out. Then I'm using some fun foam and cutting that out to back that piece because it warped a little bit from the water. Not bad, but I thought it would be good to have that stable. And here I'm using some score tape. I'm putting that on the back of the foam, and I cut out the part where I struggled with removing the adhesive tape. I didn't think you wanted to watch that. So I'm applying that to the back, and then I'm going to put it on the card base, which is just a top folding card base I made from some white cardstock I had in my stash. Now for the sentiment, I chose the XOXO longer stamp set, as I guess it's supposed to be a border. And I'm stamping it up with some Versamark ink. Stamping that up with some Versamark ink. And I used my powder tool before that, so put white embossing powder on and melted the embossing powder. And then I'm going to take a banner die from Lawn Fawn and cut that out with my Big Shot. I do that off camera. And take some foam tape, my big old roll of foam tape, and I'm cutting that in half so it'll fit the banner. And I'll fuss around with that for a while. And I still think it's too long, so I'll cut it off some more. And that's it for card 5.